Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, pew. Oh, hey YouTube, how's it going? So before we continue, I just want to be clear that I'm not a die-hard Mega Man fan. I have played a few games from the Classic and X series before, with 2 and X being a few of my favorite platformers of all time. I do, however, want to try a few of the other series, but the one I'm most interested right now is Mega Man Legends for the PS1. Making its debut on December 18, 1997 in Japan, under the name Rockman Dash, Mega Man Legends was released on the PlayStation 1. Dash being an acronym that stands for Dig Outers, Adventure Stories, and Halcyon Days. Halcyon Days being a reference to Greek mythology in which is a 14-day period in winter where storms never occur. Not exactly sure what that part has to do with the game, but clearly there was a lot of thought in the title for this, as our Blue Bomber this time isn't just an action guy like he was in the Classic and X series. Instead, he's an explorer first who prioritizes digging over fighting, which makes me kind of wonder why they changed the name to Mega Man Legends for the American release. I understand Dash probably doesn't make too much sense at face value either, but did we seriously need another game with Legend in the title? I don't know, but apparently the working title was Neo? I mean, it's a new Mega Man game, but that's kinda too on the nose. So, overall, Capcom just wanted to make a brand new Mega Man series to attract new fans. However, you gotta be really careful when you do this, because when you do it, you end up splitting the fan base. Just look at Sonic, for example. I remember reading about Mega Man Legends on online forums, and people weren't very fond of the games, saying it was boring and dated with its controls. However, later on, in 2010, Mega Man Legends 3 was announced, and then all of a sudden I started seeing the opposite opinion forming, where everyone was praising the game series for how good it was. Unfortunately, Mega Man Legends 3 never saw the light of day, as it was cancelled due to lack of fan interest. But clearly there was still a demand, as KJ Inafune later released a Kickstarter for a game very similar to the Mega Man Legends series. Actually, what happened to that game? Did it get cancelled? I don't think it did. Well, I guess the question is now, is this game series even that good? Or is it just overhyped by a small local fan base? Personally for me, I have no nostalgia towards this game, so I'm really curious how this game plays. Well, no sense to keep talking. Let's try this game out. The story begins by telling the player about the game's world. Earth is covered almost entirely of water, and there are only a few areas of land left. The people in this world heavily rely on refractor shards as a source of energy. This fuels pretty much every form of technology in this world, ranging from airships, boats, and even the enemies we face in this game. In this story, Mega Man is a so-called digger, where it's his job to go inside ruins and explore caves to find these refractor shards. Accompanied by Mega Man is his digging crew. The first member of the group is a character named Roll, which just like Mega Man, has no connection to her previous counterpart. Her job though is pretty similar to what she did in the Classic series, where she helps out Mega Man by giving him advice and tips throughout his journey. In this game, she helps by being your navigator when you're exploring ruins. Later, she can help you put together parts you find during your digs and make special weapons that you can use in combat, or for getting to areas you couldn't get into before. Also on the team is Barrel Casket, who is Roll's grandpa and is supposed to be this game's version of Dr. Light. However, he's not really as helpful as him, and he's just kind of there. In fact, when you think about it, Roll is more of a Dr. Light than he is. And finally, the last member of the digging crew is Data, who is an adorable robot monkey whose main purpose in this game is to save your data. You get it? Because his name is Data, and he saves your data.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
So we finally get to see our hero, who is in the middle of one of his digs trying to find a refractor shard. This is where you take control of Mega Man for the first time. And oh boy, you're going to soon realize that this indeed feels like an early 3D game. The game uses tank controls. You use the shoulder buttons to move where Mega Man is facing, and then you use the directional pad to go where you want Mega Man to move. This does kind of feel a bit outdated, but compared to other early 3D games, I actually find this one a bit more easy to get used to. However, I will say, the tank controls during some of these boss fights, oh god, like why? You press square to shoot, holding in square will have Mega Man continue firing, but only for a certain amount of shots. This amount can be increased later on in the game though. You can lock onto enemies by holding R2, and jumping is done by pressing circle. There is also some rolling type of move by pressing one of the shoulder buttons and hitting X at the same time. I didn't get much use out of this, but I found it quite useful for one boss fight. By the time you get adjusted with the controls, you'll be encountering the first boss in this game. And this is where you're going to learn the best strategy for most of the boss fights. The first thing you're going to want to do is run around in a circle. The second is to continue firing at the boss. And third, avoid damage. Once you master that, you know how to beat about 50% of the bosses in this game. So anyways, after defeating Mr. Wackabot, Mega Man makes a run for it and escapes. However, it turns out the boss is still not done yet. And now it's you and him outside, one-on-one. A fight to the death. Oh.
'Cause you had a bad...
Oh, never mind, he's okay. So Mega Man returns the role and thanks her for saving his butt. And then he starts giving her the most thirstiest wink I've ever seen in a video game. Like... Stop it! So obviously I'm joking. I just find it a bit odd that Mega Man and Roll were adoptive siblings in the classic series, and in this series, they kind of hint towards having a love interest. But, as I said, it's a different series, and you know what? It's a kid's game, so it really shouldn't amount to anything. Thankfully though, Barrett's there to stop the conversation, and he warns the two that the ship's engine is overheating. Luckily for them though, there's an area of land close by, going by the name of Cadillac's Island. However, upon landing, the ship's engine gives out, and our heroes are forced to crash land on the island. Fortunately, the whole gang is safe, but the ship, not so much. So the whole police end up showing up to see what the whole hubbub is about. And the lead inspector on this investigation? His accent?
Don't worry. It won't take very long.
It's perfect. Casket ends up explaining the whole situation to the police, in which they ask Barrett to come with them so he can fill up some registration forms. In the meantime, they suggest to Mega Man to visit the Apple Market. Right now though, the market is just a decent distraction. There's not really much to do here, but you can goof around for a bit. You can kick the can over there, you can try to get in the trash bin, nope. You can listen to music, you can question your innocence as a child while reading dirty magazines, but my favorite part is looking at the mirror right here. Like, why the hell is this even in here? Anyways, the only thing to do right now is to go to the junk shop and talk to the owner. She'll tell you that her husband is missing in one of the nearby ruins, and she's worried that he might be in danger. She asks you to go out and look for him, in which you do. So you enter the ruin, and this is the part where I actually have my first complaint for the game. You see, there's enemies at a higher level, and the lack of aiming manually makes this kind of a bit of a pain. I mean, it's only 2 enemies, so it's not that big of a deal. And to the game's defense, this is before the whole dual analog stick was a thing, so this is more so a product of its time kind of situation. After saving the husband, the junk shop is back open, where you'll be able to buy several items. You can purchase upgrades here, like increasing your health, reducing the amount of damage taken from hits. You can also buy a canteen which can refill your health at any given moment, which at this point can only refill your health by 3 energy points, but you can upgrade that amount by purchasing extra packs. There are other temporary items you can use, but I didn't really bother too much with them. I tried using the invincibility items a few times, but I didn't get much use out of it. While you don't take damage, you still have to avoid the enemy's attack because Mega Man still takes knockback when getting hit. So at this point, I just find it's better to avoid enemy damage than relying on invincibility items. You can also purchase Mega Buster parts to increase the 4 stats given to Mega Man. Strength increases the amount of damage dealt with each shot. Energy increases how many shots you can do at once when pressing square. Range increases how far you can reach enemies. And Rapid increases the rate of your firing speed with each shot. I personally found that focusing on strength and energy was the best, with increasing range if you haven't maxed out the other 2 stats. The Rapid stat didn't seem that quite useful to me. I just never found myself in a situation where I thought more speed would benefit me. Plus, the perk of having your energy maxed out, where you don't have to wait in between shots, is awesome. It might sound minor, but I find it way more useful with some of the later bosses. In addition to all of this, the junk shop owner gives you permission to use his old vehicle, where Roll repairs it into a functional support car. You can now visit Roll here so she creates special weapons from old parts you find throughout the game. The support car is also means of fast travel to other parts of the island. In most areas, you can also use the walkie-talkie Roll gives to you so you can call her over and bring the car. Shortly after, you and Roll notice a few ships heading over to the city, when all of a sudden... But it takes Roll a bit to realize that.
Huh? What's that noise?
Like, have you ever heard of gunfire before? Come on. You and Roll make a dash towards the city to check on our grandpa, but soon after, you eventually run into 3 large tank-like robots, who are guarding the gate that connects to the city hall. These tanks are being controlled by smaller robots, who you might have seen before in the game, that are called Servbots. Turns out these serve bots are falling under the orders of a girl named Tron. Tron is a member of the Bond family, who are a group of pirates that are trying to uncover the secrets of Catalog's island. Tron gives direct orders to the serve bots to look for any information regarding the island, and gives them the key that is needed to get past City Hall. So with them in your way, it's now time for the second boss fight of the game. Now this boss fight is actually pretty fun. Unlike the first one, there's an objective besides just being the boss. Your goal in this fight is trying to get the key from one of the 3 serve bots. You can get the key by defeating the correct serve bot who has the key. However, they have the ability to throw the key to another serve bot once they take some hits. It's up to you to keep track of who has the key and make sure you drain its life before they pass it to someone else. Each serve bot in this fight functions a bit differently. One is more focused on combat, the other is focused on endurance, and the last one is focused on speed. The fight is still easy, and I found out during my Twitch playthrough that using the splash mine in this battle is the most efficient. Once you get the key, Tron decides to pull up.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
And battles Mega Man. Tron in this fight puts up more of a challenge than the previous one. You do have some time to fire at her, but then you'll have to get out of her way before she does her dash move. She'll change things up by firing bombs at you, but as long as you're not in the way, you can easily avoid her attacks, and fire her when the time is right. Really, the only problem with this fight is that the area is way too open. Downtown is pretty big, and it's pretty easy to avoid the attacks here. There is a downside, however. By running around the city, you are more prone to have Tron destroy the buildings, which do in fact remain destroyed until you cough up the money to repair them later on in the game. However, if you really don't care about the city's well-being, then this boss is pretty easy. Defeating Tron will allow you to enter the City Hall section again. Upon entering, you'll find out that the pirates have already begun attacking the mayor and all of the buildings. Once again, it's up to you to defeat them and try to beat them as quickly as possible before they can do too much damage to the buildings. Unfortunately for me, I didn't do that good of a job. However, I did end up saving the mayor, and that's all that matters. Right? We are then introduced to the second Bond. Bond. Oh, that's a good name. Who turns out to be some sort of robot, but like, I thought they were all supposed to be siblings. And he's the youngest? Is he human? Or is he a baby? Is he a baby inside the machine? And if he's a machine, why exactly is he programmed to be a baby? The fight with Bond is actually challenging, because any damage taken from the previous mission is carried over here. Also, unlike the previous fight, I find that running away too far is actually a bad move. Here I have to try to find the correct distance away. He has a few moves that you want to watch out for, like his clap attack, or him attacking you with his streamer. However, his missile attack can be quite difficult to dodge. I found that the dodge roll move that I mentioned earlier actually works the best here. But even then, I can't dodge them 100% of the time. My only other advice is to make sure your Mega Buster strength is as high as you can make it, so you can take out Bond quickly as possible. After defeating Robo Baby, we get shown a cutscene introducing the leader of the Bond family, Teasel. Teasel's the eldest sibling of the Bonds, and he's heard about Mega Man's efforts on saving the city from his TV. He gets quite angry for a hot second, and then snaps out of it, and makes a decision to fight the Blue Bomber himself. I do want to say though, Teasel's easily my favorite character in this game. He's over the top, zany, and quite hilarious in certain cutscenes. I also think his voice actor is the only one that actually puts on a stellar performance in this game, but then again, maybe it's because the bar is set a bit too low from all the other voice actors.
Enough talk. You have to leave here. Now!
Pirates?
We finally reunite with Roll and head inside City Hall. It turns out that the mayor and Casket are all right, although everything else looks completely destroyed. Whoops. The investigator comes in and tells the gang that the pirates are up north in Closer Woods and are causing a ruckus there. He then comments that even though the pirates destroyed half the city, that you have to admire their persistence. What? I believe the destruction of several buildings and possibly a few injuries can't just be shrugged off and admired because of a criminal's persistence. What's really going on in that Goodwill, New Jersey brain of yours? So we head into Closer Woods, destroy a few tanks here and there, and find Teasel at the dig site. Now it's time for Mega Man to face the leader of the Bond family. I have to be honest here, I'm not really sure how I feel about this boss. On one hand, there's actually a few things going on here, so it's not your typical running around and shooting kind of boss. You can actually slow him down by spamming splash mines onto his wheels. But the main objective here is that you want to get on top of the cliff and shoot at the latch when it's open. When the latch is open, there are two types of attacks that he will use on you. One of the attacks has Teasel sending out a serve bot to throw a bomb at you. The other attack is releasing a few robotic bats out and having them come towards you to drop bombs. This happens at random, however I find it way easier to attack them when the Servbot is out rather than the bats. In addition to the latch attacks, Teasel's robot will also shoot this green energy ball at you. When I fought this guy for the first time, I had no clue why some of them were homing in on me and why some of them weren't. Like, yeesh! I must have died about half a dozen times here before I figured out how to dodge this attack. I found out that you need to hang out in this rectangular area here. When you're in this area, you're safe. The energy ball is dodgeable. However, step outside from it, and you'll get fucking murdered. How's anyone supposed to figure this out besides from trial and error? After defeating Teasel, Mega Man heads back to City Hall to visit the mayor and Casket one more time. The mayor tells Mega Man that they've been detecting an increase in activity underground recently, and she wants you to investigate it. She now gives you permission to visit the island subgates, and gives you the Class A digging license. While exploring the subgates, the story takes a bit of a backseat here. There are still cutscenes here and there to flesh out the story, but nothing really progresses too much until after completing the 3 subgates. Each of these gates pretty much have the same setup. The first 2 have a big refractor shard upon entering. The refractor shard, however, is guarded by some security breach that requires 3 keys. You explore the ruins so you can find these keys and retrieve the refractor shard. The first gate doesn't have a boss, which is kinda disappointing, honestly. I guess they wanted to trick you here with this cutscene, but I still would have preferred a fight. Despite there being no dungeon boss though, I did learn that Roll's a fucking psychopath.
Remember the first time you went on a dig, Mega Man? I wasn't used to being a spotter, and you ended up getting lost underground for 3 days. Remember? We were lucky that Gramps came to help us. I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't been there.
I don't think I want to find out. Perhaps I should be careful what I wish for though. The second dungeon boss fight isn't that great. It's the same running around the circle, dodge his one attack, and then fire at him. This one does have a twist though. You have to aim at his head. And with no manual aiming, this boss fight drags out way longer than it needs to be. Defeating the second dungeon's boss will get you the refractor shard needed to restore the Flutter's engine. This will allow you to go to the 3rd subgate that's above the sky in Clauser Woods. Instead of there being a refractor shard in the 3rd subgate, there's a terminal that will open up the main gate for you. However, you're going to have to find the 3 ID cards to bypass the security breach. Besides that, the subgate plays out like the rest of the subgates did. To get the last ID card, you'll need to defeat the 3rd gate's boss, or bosses as I should say. And no, this is the worst fight in this game. Like, look at this! We have 3 dogs constantly chasing around. I always have to run around for a bit before I can make sure I have enough distance so I can fire at them. The best way to beat them is, once again, running around in a circle and firing at them when you get the chance. It's like the second subgate's boss fight, but at a more intense pace. And, oh god, your thumbs are gonna hurt after this. Like, who designed this? Who thought this was gonna be fun? I didn't have any fun. My thumbs for sure didn't. Oh!
I'm not picking up any more Reaverbot signals. I think it's safe.
Oh my god, my thumb. Oh my god, I can't feel my thumb. So we have defeated the last subgate's boss, got the last ID card, and have now opened up the main gate. And just before you thought we were making some steady pace, the Bond Gang pulls up and decides to take our next battle to the sky. This fight takes place on top of the Flutter. Not only is it your job to defeat the airship, but you have to defend the Flutter and make sure oncoming attacks don't hit it. You can move Mega Man around a bit here, but you'll mostly be sticking to one place during this fight. The first part consists of defeating the mini-ships, and the second part is taking down the Bond's airship. The second half is pretty cool. There's not much going on in terms of combat, but it's cool flying around the ship and having to take it out piece by piece. I like this because it gives the player a sense of how grand this battle is. And it should be. This battle isn't as comic relief as the other fights. It's meant to be the final fight between Mega Man and the Bond family, so it should be taken a bit more seriously. And oh boy, does it get more serious. After defeating the airship, Tron decides in a last-ditch effort to fight you in a Zero look-alike combat ship, which leads to one of my favorite fights in this game. With this boss, you have to be sure to keep a close eye on everything that's going on. You want to make sure you can attack the missiles as quickly as you can, so not only you can avoid damage for the Flutter and yourself, but you also want to get few shots in before she does her next attack. She'll try to swoop in and fire energy blasts from her turret wings, or try to attack from above the ship and hit you with a bunch of energy blasts. The only difficult part about this boss fight is that you and the Flutter's health carry over from the previous fight, so just make sure you avoid as many attacks as possible during the first part. After beating that wing machine abomination, the Bond family come crashing down to what Mega Man and Roll assume to be their deaths. We get a cool cutscene here, with the Bond family having a nice wholesome moment before they plummet to their death. Teasel doesn't blame the rest of the family for their failure. He just accepts Mega Man was the better fighter, and you gotta respect him for that. Now with the Bond family gone, all that's left to do is explore the main gate. Well, kind of. Your initial time going through the main gate, you'll need to head to another terminal to activate 3 hidden locations spread across the town. Each hidden area has a key which is required to access the final area in the main gate. So it's kinda like the other subgates, but in a more grander way. The hidden areas require you to beat all the enemies in that room before acquiring the key. One of the hidden areas has a mini-boss, and another one is being blocked by... Oh my god. They're actually still alive. Wow, the inspector was right. These guys are persistent as fuck. Anywho, once you defeat the Bond family for the final time, and yes, this is the last time. I mean, they're still alive, but yes, this is the last time you beat them. You head back to the main gate and get access to the final section of the game. And holy guacamole, this game just throws a bunch of exposition and twists just right off the bat, and it's kind of ridiculous. Mega Man comments on how familiar this area looks, and then all of a sudden, this guy appears, and his name is revealed to be Mega Man. Oh, okay. That's the weirdest looking Mega Man I've ever seen. Nope, I take that back. He calls our Mega Man a Purifier model, and was designated the title of Mega Man Trigger. It turns out that this guy is called Mega Man Juno, and from my understanding, that it was Trigger's job to activate Juno on the island, so he can wipe out all carbon life on Catalog's island. Our Mega Man hates the idea of that, and decides to put a stop to this, but immediately Juno puts him under some energy trap, and goes into the other room to begin the termination process. All hope seems lost now, but luckily for us, the Bond family once again shows up. But this time, they decide to help out the Blue Bomber, as they believe he's the only one that can stop Juno from killing everyone on the island. Tron wishes Mega Man the best of luck before he heads out. You go through some hallways, and then all of a sudden, Data is there? Oh, okay. I'm kind of glad there's someone there so I can save, but like, where the fuck were you when I was trapped by Juno? Did you get here before I unlocked the doors? Why didn't you help me? Quit dancing! Oh, okay, no time for questions. Let's fight the final boss and question Data later. Mega Man enters the final door and witnesses Juno initiate the termination process. Still having time to spare, Mega Man and Juno battle out to decide the fate of Catalog's island. The final boss has 2 stages. The first stage is actually the hardest, but it's also the funnest. He has a few attacks up his sleeves, like throwing his arms at you, spinning his arms and heading towards you. Yeah, you are running around in a circle for the most part, but unlike the other fights, this boss has more than one attack to keep you stimulated. There are even some attacks that stop you from doing this. This is how I feel like some of these other boss fights should have handled this situation. But hey, I guess it's better late than never. The second stage of this boss fight, though, is not that special. He pretty much fights like the other tall robot in the second subgate. I mean, he is the final boss, so he's going to have a few more attack patterns, but if you run around in a circle, and just to avoid his attacks, you're good. But it seems like our efforts were in vain, as Juno says it's too late, and that the operation is about to commence. Then all of a sudden...
Interrupt command! Priority command rerouted to Purifier First Class Mega Man Trigger. Under suspicion of malfunction, Bureaucratic Model 3rd Class Juno has been deactivated by Mega Man Trigger, as per Ordinance 103.
So, apparently Data is aware of Mega Man's past, and that he's able to override the termination of Catalog's? So, yay? But like, why all this exposition all of a sudden? Why did it have to be that Mega Man had amnesia, and that Data's a lot more knowledgeable about this whole thing? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind twists and stories, but if it comes pouring down during the last section of the game, it kind of comes off weird. Why couldn't this be hinted and spread out during the subgate parts? This could have made the whole story feel more organic instead of the whole lore dump that we just got. It just feels like it was all slapped together at the end, just to entice players to get the sequel when it comes out. But like, why? Why can't you tell me now? Because you want me to go out and buy the sequel? Have you seen how much the sequel costs nowadays? I actually thought there was nothing wrong with the initial plot. Yeah, it was lighthearted compared to the X series that was right before it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was bad. The story kind of gave similar vibes to the original Dragon Ball anime. It was cheesy, lighthearted, and at given moments, it was serious. I honestly wouldn't have minded if the ship battle was the final boss. Might have needed a bigger battlefield, but for the final boss, the Bomb families would have been fine. Yeah, they're goofy, but who says that final bosses can't have some goof to them? This stuff could have been saved for the sequel or whatever. I don't know, personally for me, the tone of the overall story just shifted way too fast all of a sudden. Once you save the island, you return back to Roll and Casket, who are accompanied by the mayor. Roll says everything is good to go and that they're ready to leave. The mayor suggests that we should go and say goodbye to everyone before doing so. I just wanted to go and see them again so I could be called Mr. Hippopotamus. So once you say your goodbyes to everyone and decide to head out, the team jump onto the flutter and leave the island. You see everyone wave goodbye at you and... Wait a moment. What is Gary Oak's mom doing in a Mega Man game? While the plot might have gone a bit sour at the end in my opinion, I still like the overall plot. The story is simple, and for this type of game, that's great. My only suggestion is for a game that's based on digging, it would be great to expand on a story from finds throughout your digs. Have the player discover secret bosses or cool areas to uncover more of the game's lore by encouraging the player to explore. I know I might have sounded a bit critical when it came to the game's bosses, but that's only a small portion of the game. The exploring part is actually really well done. I had a blast journeying into the ruins and seeing how the game's ruins, subgates, and main gates all connect. I would highly recommend getting the drill for this game, and just have a good old time exploring. It was fun for me finding new items and seeing what parts and special weapons I could make from my finds. It was also cool to find fossils or old relics in your digs, and being able to donate them to the island's museum. Bringing in more items to the museum attracts more tourists from showing up. If there is ever a modern sequel for this game, I would love to see your dig finds attract tourists not just in the museum buildings, but throughout the whole city. It could sort of work like Animal Crossing, where the more you play and the more you explore, you have more residents live and populate the island. The only thing for making me say this game is truly outstanding is the combat. All you really have to do is lock on the enemy and shoot. There is definitely some potential in this gameplay, and it makes me curious how the second game plays. This is not to say the combat isn't fun, it can just be a bit lackluster at times. Especially when you've played the game more than once, it can feel a bit stale at times. However, maybe I'm just spoiled with how modern games play. The soundtrack in this game is also really well done. There are some very dramatic and epic sounding tunes when you're exploring the underground, like the Flector Trap. But at the same time, there are catchy and cheery tunes like the Apple Market theme. My personal favorite being the theme that plays at the main gate. Overall, I think Mega Man Legends is just an above average game. It's nothing really too spectacular, however, I still think it holds up. Yeah, the controls are a bit outdated, but it really should only take you like 20 minutes to get used to it. I say, if you can find this game at a second-hand shop, or anywhere digitally, I say give it a go. The game is really only 8 hours, and hey, you might find something that you like that I missed. And if you do, leave a comment down below and let me know. Okay, before I head off to another subgate, I'm going to get Roll to change my special weapon.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Whoops. Get out of here now!
Oh god.